Hope you're having a great weekend. It's our week in review. A look back at some of the most compelling stories, conversations that we've had throughout the week. Hope you enjoy.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast
with Tony Bruschi.
That indeed it is, and Alec Murdaugh still on our minds, even though the trial is over. Some interesting audio surfacing over the last couple of days. Fitz News finding it through a Freedom of Information Act request. And what is this audio? Well, it's Alec Murdaugh speaking with the investigators in the Gloria Statterfield death investigation. It's the full interview of that. You get to hear Alec do a little more dodging the questions, a little more, now that we have the perspective of him on the stand for all that time talking about all those things, it really puts everything that you hear from this man in a whole new perspective, I guess, or a more confirmed perspective, I guess. In the past, I think maybe there was some, maybe he's not quite that evil, but it turns out he's that evil. The man lies about literally everything. So how do we know that this interview with authorities was not some sort of a farce or a lie, which I'm sure will be dug into even deeper as that investigation continues? But without further ado, this is Alec Murdaugh talking with the authorities about the death of his former housekeeper. And I think that that term is not accurate, because this is a woman who was with them for more than 20 some years, practically raised his children. Gloria Statterfield. Take a listen.
My name is Bryant McGowan. I'm in Moselle, South Carolina. Today is Thursday, March 29th. Time's approximately 11:15 a.m. I'm meeting with Alexander Murdaugh. Mr. Murdaugh, you understand I'm recording this statement?
Yes, sir.
And I'm doing so with your permission?
Yes, sir.
Can I have your full name, please?
Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
And do you go by Alexander?
I go by Alec.
Okay. And that's short for Alexander, obviously.
Yes, sir.
All right. And you understood. I already asked you that. What's your home address?
It is 515 Holly Street, Extension, Hampton, South Carolina, 29924.
Is that your primary residence address?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How long have you lived there?
Since January of 2000, so 18 years. Well, 17 years and some.
Alec, you and I have been meeting to talk about an occurrence that happened here at the property involving a Gloria Statterfield back on February 2nd of this year, which was a Friday. And you recall the incident I'm referring to?
Yes, sir.
All right. I wanted to ask you some questions about, why don't you just go ahead and start off by filling me in as to how your day unfolded that day?
I went to work that morning and I received a phone call from my wife that Gloria was injured, seriously injured, and asking me if I could come home. I immediately left and headed to Moselle. It's about a 12 to 13 minute ride under normal circumstances, and I appreciated the fact that this was a serious injury, so I would estimate that I made it in probably 10 minutes or so. And upon arriving, found Gloria, my wife, my son Paul, and my employee Ronnie Freeman on the, we call it a patio for lack of a better term, landing area at the bottom of the steps. Gloria was there, sitting up, big pool of blood, a lot of blood on the side of her face, and shortly after I arrived here, EMS arrived and tended to her.
Did you know Gloria was coming to your house that day?
I didn't.
Okay.
But
was that uncommon? Was that uncommon for Gloria to be here at your house?
Uncommon for her to be here?
Yeah. Was it, I mean, you said when you left for work that morning, you didn't know that Gloria was going to be coming to work. I mean, coming for any purpose to the house.
I didn't know that day.
Right.
My wife knew she was coming.
Okay. And when you talked with your wife, you understood that she was coming for what reason?
Gloria was coming to be paid. My mom inadvertently left town without paying Gloria for work and had asked Maggie to pay her on her behalf. And so Gloria was coming here to get paid.
Okay. And were you able to speak with Gloria before she was taken away in the ambulance?
I was.
Okay. Did you ask her what happened?
Sure, I asked her what happened. I mean, the first thing I was making sure that Gloria, I was trying to assess her mental capability at the time. Did she know where she was? Did she know what was going on? That type of thing. And, you know, asking her if she knew me. Did she know Maggie? Did she know Paul? Did she know Ronnie? Did she know where she was? So
how was she responding to those?
She knew those things. She knew where she was. She knew who I was. I mean, she obviously was not functioning at full capacity, but she did. She knew those things.
Okay. And then the ambulance removed her, and did you follow the ambulance after that?
I did.
Okay.
I followed the ambulance to Colleton Hospital, and they were a little bit ahead of me. They lost me going through town. I was able to keep up with them in the rural parts. But in town, they kept plugging away, and I slowed up, you know, for the speed limits and traffic. And I'd say they got a few minutes ahead of me. So when I arrived at the hospital, they were actually loading Gloria onto the helicopter.
Okay. Now, here at your home, I know you and I covered a lot of information regarding the dogs you've got.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you just go down to, I think you said you have 4 dogs.
4 dogs. We have Bubba, who is a yellow lab, and he's the oldest. Estimate that he's probably 6 years old. We have Bourbon, who is a chocolate lab, who I estimate is probably 1.5 years old, maybe younger than that. I'd say 1.5 years at the oldest. We have Blue, who I estimate is 1 year old, and Blue is a Labrador Poodle mix, so a Labradoodle. And then we have Sassy, who is a German short hair, who is no more than 6 months old.
Okay. And in particular, I think you had expressed that Bourbon, the female chocolate lab, I believe she was purchased from Lazy Lab Kennels, and we're gonna button up all that data. But she had been away at a obedience school. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And how long had she been back when this incident occurred?
I believe that when this thing was going on, we knew. I think it had been a day. I think she had been back a little more than a day.
Okay. And when you were talking with Gloria before she was taken away, did she describe the chain of events in any way to you? Obviously, she was out of it.
She indicated that the dogs had caused her to fall.
Okay. And she was at the base of the front steps.
She was.
When you arrived.
My understanding was she was sitting on the base of the steps when I arrived. Now, my understanding from my wife, when she found her, she was unconscious, and her head was on the landing area, and her feet were up the steps.
So she was upside down.
Well,
almost.
I think she was laying on her back or on her side, but her feet were up on like the second step, and her head was on the ground. So she was literally on the steps with her head down on the brick landing area.
Okay. And did Gloria live here at the property?
No, she did not.
Okay. Do you know what her, how far away her home is?
I don't know her exact address, but I know that Gloria lived in Furman, South Carolina.
Okay.
So that's about 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Okay.
It's in Hampton County.
And how long would you estimate that Gloria had been doing work for you and or your family?
She's been working for our family for, close to 20 years, I would estimate. I know she babysat my children when my youngest was an infant, so he's 19.
All right.
So.
And she was paid along. She was not like a full-time employee.
She was an hourly. She would be paid by the hour when she would work.
Okay. All right. And I know we had gone over that the obedience school is run by Brett Lawson, and you're gonna tie down the rest of that information for me.
I'm gonna get Brett Lawson's. I'm gonna get what paperwork he has. I'm gonna get vet records, and I'm gonna get the genealogical papers on Bourbon.
Okay. And when was the last time you would estimate that Gloria had worked for either you or your wife Maggie here at the house prior to this event?
Gloria did something. She was routinely doing things for us. So whether it was running errands, whether it was doing something at the Hampton house, or doing something out here, it would have been in the very recent past.
It would have been within 14 days.
Certainly within 14 days.
Okay.
Probably less than that.
All right. And she was familiar with Bubba, Blue, and Sassy. Did she ever have any problems with any of those dogs?
No.
Okay.
She was familiar with them, and she would have been familiar with Bourbon before she went off to. I don't know if we ever had her. I'm trying to think. I don't know that we ever had Bourbon at home before, but she was certainly familiar with Bourbon. With Bubba, Blue, and Sassy.
Okay. Did she, during the course when she would be working for you, would she feed the dogs?
Sure.
Okay.
There've been occasions where she did.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm trying to think of anything. Did you ever have any other incidences involving any problems with the dogs being aggressive or any similar? I guess any kind of incident with a complaint about the dogs.
We have never had any issue with any of the dogs being vicious or aggressive in the sense of violence or biting or attacking or any of that. And the problem is, and why we sent Bourbon to obedience school is, as I told you earlier, she's so hyper, she would all the dogs get stirred up and they compete to be petted and to get attention. And so, what I'm assuming happened is when Gloria pulled up, the dogs are, rushing her.
Affection. For affection.
And
not aggression, but affection.
And Bourbon had only been back for a day or so. So, the way they all do when Bourbon's here is different than they do when it's just them.
Okay. So the people that were on site when the ambulance came were you, your wife Maggie, your son Paul, and an employee of yours, Ronnie Freeman.
That's correct.
And was anybody with Gloria when she drove up? I assume she drove her own car here?
That's correct.
And was there anybody in the car with her?
No, sir.
Okay. So there was no witness to the chain of events? To
the fall itself?
Right.
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And do you have any surveillance cameras around the exterior of the home?
No, sir.
Okay. Alec, I've tried to go over everything I can think of. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
All right. With nothing else to add, I'll be concluding the interview at this time. And again, I'd like to ask if you understood I recorded it.
Yes, sir.
I did so with your permission.
Yes, sir.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast.
The Hidden Killers Podcast.
With Tony Bruschi.
I told you there's still much more to come in the Alec Murdaugh case. It's just one chapter, the death of Maggie and Paul. We know that there is far, far more in the depths of the depravity of Alec Murdaugh. Press subscribe so you don't miss any of those updates as we continue to follow it for you right here. My name is Tony Bruschi. Stay with us.